Everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. It's amazing how even little changes you make to what you eat can make a huge difference in how you feel overall. We're not talking about crazy restrictive diets or anything, just, like simple tweaks that can help you feel healthier and happier. We actually had a listener in a while back who was blown away by how much better they felt after just upping their water intake. They had more energy and their skin looked amazing. And get this, they even said they had less brain fog. It just goes to show, sometimes the smallest changes can have the biggest impact, right?
Absolutely.
So today, we're going to dig into some practical, impactful changes that you can make to fuel a healthier life. And to help us navigate this topic, we have an expert in the field joining us today. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to dive into this with you.
Thanks for having me. It's always great to talk about how to take care of our bodies and really, fuel them for optimal well-being.
That's a perfect way to put it. So let's start with the basics. Can you walk us through the fundamental building blocks of nutrition?
Sure. So think of it like, building a house. You need those strong foundational materials to make sure it lasts, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, in nutrition, those building blocks are your macronutrients and your micronutrients.
Okay, so macronutrients and micronutrients. Can you break those down for us?
So your macronutrients are like your main ingredients, in a recipe. They're the proteins, the carbs, and the fats that your body needs in larger amounts.
Gotcha.
And they provide your body with energy, they help build and repair tissues, and they really support like a whole variety of bodily functions.
So they're basically essential for everything that's happening in our bodies.
Pretty much. And then you have your micronutrients, which are your vitamins and minerals. You need these guys in smaller amounts, but they're just as important. They're like those specialized workers that, keep everything running smoothly. Like they support your immune system, your bone health, help boost your metabolism, things like that.
So to be healthy, we need a good balance of both, macros and micros.
Exactly. The key is to have a varied and colorful diet that's full of whole foods. Think fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and healthy fats.
That makes me think about that listener we talked about earlier, the one who had more energy from drinking more water.
Right.
Can you tell us why staying hydrated is so important?
People don't realize how critical hydration is for your well-being. It's essentially the fluid that keeps everything running smoothly.
Okay, I can see that. So how does water actually work in our bodies?
Well, for one, water is super important for your metabolism. It helps your body convert food into energy efficiently. That's probably why our listener felt that boost in energy just from upping their water intake.
Interesting.
But it's not just that. Staying hydrated helps regulate your body temperature, it lubricates your joints, and it helps transport nutrients throughout your body.
So it really is like the lifeblood of our system.
Exactly. And when you're dehydrated, your body just can't function at its best.
Right, that makes sense. Okay, so we've got our building blocks, our macros, our micros, and of course good old H2O. But what can we actually eat to feel energized throughout the day? And I'm talking about that sustained energy, not just, a quick burst and then a crash.
That's a great question. To get that lasting energy, you want to focus on foods that provide a slow and steady release.
Okay.
So complex carbohydrates, lean proteins, and healthy fats are going to be your best friends.
So it's best to avoid those sugar rushes.
Yeah, sugary foods might give you that temporary spike in energy, but you'll likely crash later on.
Right.
Instead, opt for things like whole grains, like quinoa and brown rice. These have a lower glycemic index.
Now, what does that mean exactly?
So the glycemic index measures how quickly a food raises your blood sugar. Foods with a lower glycemic index are digested more slowly, which gives you that sustained energy release we were talking about.
Oh.
Along with your whole grains, make sure to include lean protein sources like fish and chicken, and healthy fats from nuts, seeds, and avocados. These foods will help you feel full and keep your energy levels up for longer.
Gotcha. So slow and steady wins the race when it comes to lasting energy. But what about brain power? Is there anything we can eat to help us focus better? Asking for a friend who might have a long day ahead.
Oh, there definitely is. When it comes to brain power, omega-3 fatty acids are your secret weapon.
Omega-3s. Okay, I've heard of those. Where can we find them?
Fatty fish like salmon are a great source. Studies show that people who eat fatty fish regularly tend to do better on memory tests and have a lower risk of cognitive decline. But if fish isn't your thing, you can also get omega-3s from plant-based sources like chia seeds and flax seeds.
Good to know. So we can add those to the grocery list. Anything else that can help us, stay sharp?
Antioxidants are another fantastic option. They act like little superheroes protecting your brain cells from damage. You can find them in tons of colorful fruits and vegetables. Think berries, leafy greens, and well, pretty much all those vibrant veggies you see at the store.
Okay, that's all making sense. But I have to admit, sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming to put all of this into practice. How can we actually build balanced meals without, needing a degree in nutrition?
It doesn't have to be complicated at all. There's this simple trick called the plate method. Basically, you visualize your plate and aim to fill half of it with vegetables.
Half the plate with veggies. That seems like a lot.
It might seem like a lot, yeah, but it's a great way to make sure you're getting plenty of vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Then you fill a quarter of your plate with a lean protein, like fish, chicken, tofu, and the remaining quarter with whole grains, like quinoa or brown rice.
Okay, I'm seeing the portions now. But why is that specific ratio so important?
It just helps you get a good balance of nutrients while also watching your portion sizes, It's an easy visual guide that can really make a big difference.
Okay, that's easy enough to remember. Are there any other tips for making sure we're eating the right amounts?
Absolutely. Practice mindful eating. So pay attention to your body's hunger and fullness cues and really savor each bite. Try to avoid distractions like TV or your phone while you're eating. That way you can really focus on your food and how it makes you feel.
That's a great tip. But what about all the conflicting information out there about good foods and bad foods? And don't even get me started on all the fad diets. It can be so confusing to know what to actually believe.
Oh, I know. It's definitely a lot of noise out there. But the important thing to remember is you don't have to be perfect.
So it's not about being restrictive or following some specific diet.
Exactly. It's about finding a balanced approach that works for you. And focus on adding more nutrient-rich foods to your diet rather than stressing over what you can't have. Small, sustainable changes are way more effective in the long run than these crazy, short-lived diets.
Small changes, big impact. I like that. It really takes the pressure off.
That's the goal. Focus on making those gradual, sustainable changes, and you'll be surprised at how much of a difference it makes.
All right, so today we've covered the basic building blocks of nutrition, the importance of staying hydrated. We've talked about choosing foods for sustained energy and boosting brain power, and how to build those balanced meals using the plate method. Plus, we've tackled portion control, mindful eating, and ditching that diet mentality to focus on making sustainable changes. Is there anything else we need to remember about these fundamentals?
I think we hit the key points. The main takeaway here is that taking care of your body doesn't have to be complicated or super restrictive.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground today in this deep dive into nutrition for wellness, but we're not done yet. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Sounds good. One thing that's really fascinating about nutrition is it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, like factors like your genetics, your lifestyle, how active you are, and even just your personal preferences. All those things play a role in figuring out what your optimal diet actually looks like.
Oh, interesting. So what works for one person might not work for someone else. That makes sense. But how do you even figure out what's best for you as an individual?
Well, it can seem a bit overwhelming at first, but it really starts with just tuning in to your body's signals, Pay attention to how you feel after you eat certain foods. Like, do you have more energy? Or do you feel sluggish? Are there any foods that just don't agree with you, like they cause digestive issues?
Right.
Those little cues can give you a lot of insight.
So it's like we have to be detectives for our own bodies.
Exactly. You've got this built-in feedback system, but so many people just ignore it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So how can we actually pay attention to those signals?
Well, one helpful tool is keeping a food journal.
A food journal?
Yeah, it helps you connect the dots between what you eat and how you feel.
I've heard of those, but I've never actually tried one. How does it work exactly?
It's pretty simple. You just jot down what you eat and drink throughout the day, and then make note of how you feel afterwards. Like, are you energized, bloated? Do you have any cravings? You might start to notice some patterns after a week or two.
Okay, so if I notice I always feel tired after eating a big bowl of pasta, that might mean I need to adjust my portion sizes or maybe choose a different type of carb.
Exactly. It's all about experimenting and figuring out what works best for your body.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But what about those times when life gets crazy and, healthy eating kind of takes a back seat? We all have those days where grabbing takeout seems like the only option.
Oh, for sure. I get it.
What advice do you have for those busy days when it's hard to prioritize healthy eating?
I think the key is being prepared. Meal prepping on the weekends can be a lifesaver during the week. And having healthy snacks ready to go can help you avoid those unhealthy impulse choices, when you're on the go.
Meal prepping. I've been meaning to try that. What are some, easy meal prep ideas for beginners?
Start simple. You could roast a big batch of veggies, cook up some quinoa or brown rice, grill some chicken breasts. Then you can just mix and match those ingredients throughout the week to create different bowls or salads.
Okay, that sounds manageable. What about snacks? Any suggestions for healthy snack options that we can have ready to grab?
Think about snacks that give you a good balance of nutrients, like a handful of almonds with a piece of fruit or some Greek yogurt with berries. Having those ready to go can really help you avoid reaching for those, less healthy options.
Right, those are good ideas. But let's be honest, sometimes those unhealthy snacks just, call your name, no matter how prepared you are.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
Any tips for dealing with those cravings?
Well, first of all, remember that cravings are totally normal. But sometimes they might be a sign that your body's actually lacking something.
Really?
Yeah, for example, if you're craving salty foods, you might actually just be dehydrated.
Interesting. So reach for a glass of water instead of a bag of chips.
Exactly. Or if you're craving sweets, you might need more protein or complex carbs to stabilize your blood sugar.
So cravings can be like clues for what our bodies need.
Yep. And sometimes it's totally fine to indulge a little, in moderation, of course. Depriving yourself completely can backfire and lead to, overeating later on.
Right, that makes sense. So it's all about finding that balance again.
Exactly. It's not about being perfect. It's about making choices that support your well-being. Nutrition is a journey, not a destination. You're constantly learning, experimenting, and making adjustments along the way.
I love that. This whole conversation has really shifted my perspective on nutrition. But hold on, everyone. We've got more to explore in this deep dive into nutrition for wellness. We've been talking about making healthier choices, but I'm curious, what kind of impact does nutrition have on our long-term health? Way down the road.
That's a really important question. The food choices we make each day, they don't just affect how we feel right now. They can really have a big impact on our health in the long run.
So you're talking about things like chronic diseases.
Exactly. There's a ton of research that shows a strong link between our diet and the risk of developing things like heart disease, type 2 diabetes, certain types of cancer. Even Alzheimer's disease has been linked to what we eat.
Wow, I didn't realize it was all so connected. It really makes you think about, making healthy choices now to protect yourself later. But let's be real. Life happens. Sometimes those less than healthy choices are just easier,
I get it.
What advice do you have for those of us who struggle to stick with healthy habits?
I think the biggest thing is to remember it's not about being perfect. It's about progress.
Okay.
Don't get discouraged by setbacks or if you indulge every now and then. Every healthy choice you make, even if it seems small, it all adds up,
I love that. It takes the pressure off, for sure. It's not about some, unattainable ideal. It's just about making an effort to improve our habits bit by bit.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to your doctor, maybe consult with a registered dietitian, or even find a friend who's also trying to live a healthier lifestyle. Having support can make a huge difference in staying motivated.
That's so true. Sometimes we try to do it all on our own and forget that there are people who can help us. Well, we've covered so much in this deep dive into nutrition for wellness. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
At the end of the day, nourishing your body doesn't have to be super complicated or restrictive. It's all about finding what works for you and your life. Just start by adding more whole, unprocessed foods to your diet. Stay hydrated, like we talked about, and really listen to your body's signals. Such great advice. It's been amazing having you on the show and learning from you.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
And to all our listeners, as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a thought. What's one small change you can make this week to fuel your body better? Think about it and start making those small steps towards a healthier you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.